Oh.
G'day, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matty Peverell, joined as always by my co-host Marky D, Marky Davison. How you doing, mate?
You sound like you're a tour guide for like Australia. G'day, guys. Welcome back to Steelers Touchdown Under. On your right over here is the Kangaroos. If you don't like the Kangaroos, come check out the Koala Bears too. Or if you're not a fan of the Koala Bears, check out the Wallabies. The Wallabies are great.
And then some bogan Aussie yells over and goes, "Koala bear? It's just a koala, you dumb hell." Oh, I was going to swear then. Pull back from that one. Nah, but mate, how are you? It's been an interesting week.
What?
It's rainy here. It's cold here. It's yuck here.
You know what's funny, man? Fun. No one really cares about the Wombat, do they?
I like the Wombat.
Everyone talks about the Kangaroos and the Koala Bears, and no one really talks about the Wombat or the Platypus.
Well, you know, a fun fact about two fun facts. The Wombat, do you know back like 200-300 years ago, they had wombats the size of hippos that were killing people, which is why like the indigenous and the English like banded together to kill them off. And then the other one with the platypus is the first platypus ever allowed outside of Australia at a zoo is now at San Diego Zoo. And most people don't realize, but the platypus has like a spike on its like paw that has like basically equivalent to venom in it, and there's no cure for it around the world. It basically numbs you when you're in crippling pain for like 2 weeks.
That's so good. Makes Australia even more dangerous. Come down to Australia. Like they always, cute and cuddly animals. No, half these animals can rip your limbs off. It's great.
Exactly. Or put you in a hospital in withering pain and like, common science hasn't figured it out yet.
Do you remember when James Harrison took that brown to the fan, tackled the fan to the ground?
Yeah.
Like dead set, just picked him up. It's like that with a kangaroo or some animals here. And even Daredevil says here too, quokkas are cool. We talked about quokkas a few years ago on one of the shows. Quokkas are like the docile, like looking like, I don't know if they're like a rat or like I don't know what they are exactly, but
they are like technically a rodent, I think.
Yeah, like a rodent. They're always just happy, just chilling out there eating the leaves. But yeah, quokkas are.
They look a bit like a very happy small capybara.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Clappy for it. Make the platypus our next running back. Yeah, well, right now we've got a few wombats that just slow and trudge along. So,
definitely, we should do that kind of show where like
we should do. You know what? We should do that next week. We should do an Australian show of like different animals and characters.
Benny Snell has to be a wombat. He's too slow in the backfield.
Who?
Like Benny Snell is a wombat for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's a good segue into the offense. Last week we talked about the odd man out on the defense. We sought to talk about the odd man out in general, but Mark and I, as everyone knows, love our defense, and we got a little bit, let's say, energetic about that defense. But you guys love the content. You guys love talking about Pittsburgh Steelers, and so also there's 90 players on the roster. It's pretty hard to cover everyone off into, both in offense and defense in one show. We found it hard enough to get through like 50 people. But so this week we're going to be talking about the offense. And so if you're on the audio side, we're now going to crack into the show. But live chat, looking forward to everything you guys are going to throw in as per usual on YouTube and Facebook. As I think we always like to say, and so do our BTSC colleagues, you guys make the show. So throw in your thoughts and questions as always. But let's crack into it, Mark. So if I sort the Steelers roster alphabetically, the first position that is brought up is the center position when you talk about offense. So there are 3 centers listed right now, and they are Kendrick Green, JC Hassenauer, and Chris Owens. But I thought I would also bring up the offensive line, the guys listed as offensive line, because there's guys like Mason Cole in there as well. So offensive line, you've got James Daniels, Mason Cole, Kevin Dotson, John LeGlue, Chooks Okorafor, Trent Scott. Now, obviously, Chooks we're probably saying is a tackle, but I'm just going off what their position they're listed as. So let's recap. Kendrick Green, JC Hassenauer, Chris Owens. And then if we think about the guys that would likely play center, you're probably talking about Mason Cole and James Daniels potentially.
Right. So we're doing the odd man out, aren't we? We're choosing
who's looking like they might not be there.
Chris Owens. See ya. I don't know. I don't know who that dude is. Like a lot of these guys on the real back end, because how many people are in the offensive line, right? There are so many different people playing the position. I thought it was going to be Cole. Cole would be there. I have heard Daniels being at center, but I've also heard that he's going to stick there at right guard. Then you have the idea to will Kendrick Green play left guard and behind Dotson. I think the camp coming up, camp in a few weeks' time is going to be very interesting, and hopefully I can pay attention to the offensive line and not get bored. But I'm telling you, because it's going to be very interesting there to see who will get the reps. Number one, but if you're saying odd man out, I'm going to say it's Chris Owens, because I just don't know who the guy is. And it's look at the talent in front of him. There's so much talent.
Yeah, and I think with Hassenhauer, for me, like I'm not going to argue with that one. I think Hassenhauer, it's more a practice squad thing. If they're really serious about moving Kendrick Green to guard, I do see a lineup. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lineup, particularly when you think about the role of a center with a quarterback, and particularly a rookie quarterback. I think it was Matt Paredes that was there before. I think Mitch Morse is the center for Buffalo. But I remember them talking about bringing the center that Josh Allen started with over to help him out, because it would help him with the snap count. It would take the pressure off him. And they said it made a massive difference to his development. I wouldn't be surprised. Which is why I wouldn't be surprised to see Dotson at guard, Green at guard, and Daniels at center to make life easier if Pickett is the starter, or if Pickett comes in the first few weeks of the season, if Trubisky gets injured. To me, it makes more sense to put someone that's super experienced there that is going to do their job. And so that, Kenny Pickett isn't facing pressure down through that center position. I could see that.
Yeah, well, you threw a spanner in the works there, depending if Pickett starts or if Trubisky starts. So that's another whole show in itself, really. Yeah,
we'll get there later in this one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Everyone's on Mason Cole. I wish him all the best. I know we spent money on him. If you actually go through what he's done, he's not that much better than Kendrick Green. I'm just saying that. I think
the narrative is now that Cole's going to start at center, Green's be pushed over to left guard, and then you have James Daniels starting at right. I don't really care where James Daniels starts. If we can just get 5 James Daniels, we'll be fine. Just to get everyone, he's super excited to be a Steeler. So,
he's a leader.
Odd man out. It's got to be the undrafted free agent, or rookie, whoever it is. But yeah, it's going to be. This line is completely. Imagine, look at the line the last 2 years or whatever. It's so different. Who's the only guy we know is Chooks, really.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Now, if we look at, let's go a bit wider then, because the next alphabetical player on the roster, because they make this really, really easy for shows like this, is technically fullback, but we'll talk about that one a little bit later on, because we'll bracket that with tight end. But you've got Nate Gilliam at guard, and then going back into those, offensive linemen, we talked about Mason Cole and James Daniels. So then we go Kevin Dotson, John LeGlue. I'm going to leave out Okorafor, but then Trent Scott. I mean, do you think LeGlue can make this roster, or do you think he's just a practice squad guy again? Because obviously Dotson.
It depends how many numbers they need for the guard position, right?
Yeah.
How many numbers they need, and what they're going to the season with normally about 9 offensive linemen. Is that correct? I think about 9.
Correct. I'm just trying to
calculate. Most seasons, I think Dave talks about it a bit. I think it's normally 9. So you have the 5 starters, and you have 4 backups. So I would say can LeGlue be one of those backups? Because they also even our tackle position too. They brought in Trent Scott, the big unit, but then how many backups do you have behind that 5?
Well, and that's a good segue to bring up the tackles, because you got Jake Dixon, Dan Moore, Jordan Tucker. I mean, Jordan Tucker at North Carolina. I've seen him play in North Carolina. I like the guy. He's a guy. If I'm picking a flyer right now to make, or a bolter, if you like, to make this squad out of there on the offensive line, out of guys that we haven't seen before, he's the guy, to be honest.
Because I think when you're saying these positions of individual guard or tackle, I think I know when I'm talking right now, I'm going into the whole offensive line, because they can all play. They're all flexibility. So who's going to be behind the starting 5? Or who would be the starting 5? And I think Kendrick Green or JC Hassenhauer will be either back up to maybe Dotson and Cole, depending. And then do we have? Is there a camp battle between LeGlue and someone else, or Trent Scott, and then the other guys are just the other guys that are there to fill in? But I want to be surprised. I wanted someone to come in and just take over. And if it's
Yeah,
undrafted or someone we don't know about, that's what most excites me. Someone who's going to just go out there and work.
Yeah, and the thing that I think, I know there are a few people that have talked about different tackles, like, I think this was Riley Reef and, some of those guys, Eric Fisher and that. Like, but actually, he might have signed somewhere recently. I thought I saw that. I heard someone talking about that. But there's also guys, I could see some decent, there'll be some tackles around this league that get cut, as teams look at what they
Big time.
drafted, right? You take the Cowboys and they brought in the Tulsa guy. His name's escaping me. His last name. Yeah, Tyler Smith, I think it is. They brought him in. Now they brought him in to start, and they thought they could use him in an interior position. But if they've got poor play elsewhere on the tackle part, they could cut a guy, for example. So you just don't know what's going to happen between now and the start of the season. But yeah, as I say, from my perspective, I'm looking at Bolter. I definitely think I'm interested to see what Jordan Tucker can do through the preseason. But then obviously you've got a guy like, Leglue that played a little bit last year, who you'd kind of expect to make the practice squad at a minimum. Now, the thing we left out, though, was Joe Haig and Chaz Green, right? Because they're later in the alphabetical list at tackle. Chaz Green, we saw a little bit last year, in terms of the preseason. I think he started 2 of the 3 games in the preseason. I'm not the biggest fan. I don't think he brings a lot, so I can't see him making this roster for me. Joe Haig, I can't see them cutting him, given he's probably the most experienced guy on the offensive line.
He's from Tampa, right? He's from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
He was the Tampa guy, yeah. But the thing for me, I think I might have spoken about on this podcast or War Room, but you see him in photos or videos in Steelers training, and he just never looks like he wants to be there. I'm like, if I was getting paid a couple of million a year to play for the Steelers, I'd be thrilled.
He's the Jay Cutler of guards.
Yeah,
Jay Cutler did not want to be on the field. He'd score a touchdown, and Jay Cutler would be just depressed. He'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's a weird cat, that guy, though.
I got a question for you. So, how many starters throughout the year do you want to be at start every week? Do you want James Daniels to start every game? Do you want another player to start every single game? We know it won't be the same line for 17 games. How many starters do you want to be the exact same, in the exact same role every week?
So I'm going to answer your question a little bit differently. I think a successful season, a season with limited injuries. Injuries are always going to happen. Even if they're a 1 week proposition, a 2 week proposition, or they're a 7 or 8, or even a season proposition. Hopefully not. I think it would be a good goal, objective, good mark, pass mark, if you like, if the Steelers had 7 guys that started on the offensive line across the 5 positions. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what you're saying is there could be injuries, or someone gets demoted or whatever.
Or you give someone a break, after the bye, or you've got someone that's like a 50-50 and you whatever. Because you also might have a situation with where Kendrick Green was last year, where Hassenauer started toward the end. Kendrick Green had the calf injury, and they had him there to play if he needed to step in, but they didn't want him to have to play.
I'm going to answer my own question a bit differently, right? So I want this season, I want to see 10 games or more with the same 5, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? I want to see the exact same 5 playing at least 10 games.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
If we get into a situation where center doesn't work out and that chop and changes and they're not playing very well, or they change, or let's move this guy here. So that's the perfect the time now for the offseason to work all these things out. But I know that James Daniels will be in there somewhere. Mason Cole will be in there somewhere. Of course, Dotson and who's the other? I always forget his name. Dan Moore Jr.
Dan Moore.
I think the junior throws me off. Dan Moore's in there, right? So I don't want to see week 1, you have 5, and then 2 weeks later it's a whole new, 3 new guys come in, right? There's got to be some cohesion there to build that forward through the season. And this is a crazy game when you think about it. I know a lot of people say Steelers got to go out and win a Super Bowl, but there's so many things to it when you really think about it. They're playing over 17 weeks. They've got to get everything together.
And then there's also the luck of the draw. It's pretty interesting. But I mean, when you look at that spot overall and that guard and that tackle and, center, it's quite confusing. It's fun. I always find it funny on these lists and rosters, and when you come out through the draft, that they're always listed at something different to what they're playing. So whoever lists these positions needs to just standardize it. It's just, I don't know. This doesn't make it very easy.
Do you think if the player's playing a certain position, if they're getting paid as a right guard or a right tackle, do you think they want to go and play the other position, or are they in their mind set to that contract?
Oh, that's a good question. I
think
for some players, they're not versatile, but every player will sit there and say they're versatile through the draft process because it boosts their valuation, so. But yeah, I mean, some people adjust to it really well. Other people don't. I've been listening to, I'm halfway through an interview that Bucky Brooks did with Thomas Davis, who was the linebacker partner for Luke Kuechly at the Panthers.
Yeah, he was good. He was real fun to watch. God, he was a good.
He's a legend, and everyone knows how much of a fan I am of Luke Kuechly, and Luke Kuechly has talked a lot about how Davis pushed him, and so Davis was saying, well, actually, Kuechly pushed me, so we were both just two dogs at the one bone, but they were able to share the bone, right?
Yeah.
But Davis, and it was fairly early in my time, I wouldn't say I've ever watched a game that he played in college, but he was a safety for Georgia. And he was drafted to be a safety, like a 230, 40-pound safety, a bit like what Brian Urlacher was in that situation as well. But he was talking about the fact that they were Bucky Brooks and Thomas Davis were doing some back and forth on how, because when he came to the league, he played linebacker and he was a bit big, but that he said he could have shed a little bit of weight and, been more focused on the tight end position, particularly with the way that he lined up in a 4-3 defense. But Bucky Brooks asked him, look, we just assume when we're evaluating college players that they're going to be able to switch positions. Like if there's, sometimes that's strong safety, but they could play in a deep safety role. It might be cornerback that can play slot corner. Because slot corner is almost becoming its own different position, if you like, now, right? So, and a lot of people in the draft process, both in the college game and the people that evaluate it in scouting will tell you that's very much the case. So you and even slot wide receiver to an extent, so you're kind of now seeing this evolve, but we all just assume, that guy can just plot over there. Dotson played right guard all in college. And a lot of us want to see him go back. I think it makes sense to put him back there. But he's probably spent all his time learning left guard and how his footwork needs to be and his positioning. He might not want to be there anymore, right? He might want to go, I just want to do left guard. So who knows, right? It's just, but then you have one thing I find I'll say is then you, to answer your question, then you have a guy like Bud Dupree, who when his free agency tag came up, he wanted to be listed as a defensive end because that's what he'd been a 4-3 because they had more money with that associated with the franchise tag there. So it's like,
could you imagine if Dotson is playing right guard and he forgets he always goes left and he goes the opposite way, he just or he goes, I don't know what he's doing, or the team goes one way and he's like,
yeah.
he's I forgot. It's gonna be so intriguing to watch this new line, really, because we've always had from the last 5 years or so, even with Big Ben, some of the Marquise Pouncey and the Castro and those dudes, and being Big Al, we never really talked about it. I think if we had a show, we wouldn't talk about that much because we knew those guys were going to be starter. Now it's the new guys coming in. It's going to be very, very interesting, I think.
So we've got a really good question from Michael O'Malley, just while we take a pause there. What effect will Flores have on the D this year? I think we have some ish we haven't seen from Pittsburgh. I don't know. I think I know what you mean by that. But we did talk a lot about that on last week's show. Because we did this same odd man out for the defense, and we did talk about Flores, and we talked about Flores the week before. But I think Mark and I both agree that, and obviously Mark jump in, but Flores is definitely putting a stamp on this D in different positions, but he's doing it in a respectful way with Terrell Austin, and we can only be of benefit. I know the guys on the preview spent a lot of time talking about this yesterday as well. But I also, anyone that thinks Flores is here to take over from Tomlin, especially if you've listened to that Pivot podcast.
He's a head coach that is a linebackers coach. He's going to help us out tremendously, and just more leadership as well for these young men to get out there and go play. You can already see in some of his interviews and when he was, working with the fellas that he's ready to play. He's ready to be. He's focused on being a Pittsburgh Steelers linebackers coach, I think, and that will set him up to. Yes, he's dealing with the legal stuff with the NFL, and I'm not talking about that, but he can go sort it out. All right. But he's getting himself back to, okay, I can be a head coach. I don't know why I was fired, and give me a year or two with Steelers, and I'll show you why I'm a head coach, because his linebacking core will be one of the best. And look at the players he has. He's got so many good players. So I know Mike Tomlin's excited, and Mike Tomlin reached out and said Tomlin didn't reach out and say, "Oh, I want you to play for us first." He reached out as a friend, as a man, and said, "Hey, are you okay?" And then 3 or 4 weeks later, things started to happen. So I'm excited to see him get another chance, because he was a tremendous head coach. Going to be with the Dolphins and could have turned them around. And that game against the Ravens was one of the best games I saw last year. I always say, go watch it. It was one of the best games. They zero blitzed him like 75% time. Lamar Jackson had no idea where to go. No idea where to go. The safety was down there. Javon Holland was down there and making tackles. Like, it was so much fun. So if he can bring that little bit of leadership to the Steelers in this already nice defense we have, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's move to the next position. And we appreciate that this position riles fans up. We also appreciate that this position is not going to be sorted out no matter how many podcasts talk about it for several weeks to come. And we also appreciate that we've probably got a 8 to 8 minute time limit on this show to talk about this position. The live chat, be ready. Let's be nice to each other. It's the quarterback position. Chris Oladokun, Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, and Mitch Trubisky.
I thought you were going to talk about the fullback. I thought you were talking about the fullback was the most vital
we'll talk about them as at the tight end position. But that equally can be divisive. That equally can be divisive amongst
So we're doing odd man out, right? Back to the narrative of the show.
Correct.
Odd man out has to be Chris Oladokun, I think.
Okay. So you're taking super mature approach. I like it.
Well, that's what I think the Steelers would do, right? Yeah. As an organization right now, we know what the Steelers normally do. They will probably start Trubisky. They will put Pickett on the bench, or not make him wear a helmet, and then have Mason Rudolph as backup. That's what they probably do. Fans, however, odd man out, want Mason Rudolph gone and keep Oladokun, which I think as well. But we'll see, because we don't know, right? I don't know what you think, but like odd man out for me for a Steeler is Chris Oladokun, because he'll probably be not cut or practice squad.
Yeah, this is the. I feel like there's a game of chicken going on right now, right, with the league and Mason Rudolph. Like, it's just you look at other rosters and other quarterback rooms, and Mason Rudolph would easily be the second player, or like potentially even a starter if you do look at some rooms. I don't think we play the type of offense that is ever really going to have worked for Mason Rudolph. I think if Canada would come in a bit earlier, potentially that's a different thing. But when you look at what Mason Rudolph has done, that experience there, you're hard pressed from a training camp perspective. I think after that, someone will look to bring him in through the preseason. However, they might also say they want to bring him in for the training camp side of things. So, I mean, these are some of the things. These are like some things to think about. But if, as the roster is right now, if we start the season and we have, Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett's really the number 2, even if he's listed as number 3, and then you got Mason Rudolph, that is actually a good thing, Steelers fans. That is a good thing. Like, Mason Rudolph has that starting experience. I mean, if Trubisky goes down in week 2 and they feel Kenny's like a week or 2 off being ready, don't start Kenny Pickett. Start Mason Rudolph, right? Like, we got to be mature. Like, I know, you draft a quarterback in the first round, you draft him in the top 20 players, he's going to be starting at some point, right? Like, the reality says that, we're in a society now that's run by instant gratification. I mean, that's just the way it works. But having a guy like Mason Rudolph, because what if all right, let's play devil's advocate. I know people go, oh no, it's the yips. But what if Trubisky tore his ACL in week 1, like Zach Banner did a few years back, or Ben Roethlisberger when he did his elbow halfway through the Seahawks game? Who you want Chris Oladokun backing up Kenny Pickett? Because the stats say that a rookie quarterback's going to miss a game or two with something that goes on, right? Or what if Kenny Pickett has a really bad game and they like want to pull you out, give you another week, particularly if it's like a week before the bye? There's a lot of scenarios where actually having Mason Rudolph as the third quarterback is a good thing. Michael Malley says having 2 head coaches an advantage, correct? But like, it does make sense. However, my caveat is if someone wants Mason Rudolph and you can flip that for a 5th pick, better than a 7th, I don't think it's worth trading the 7th. But if you can get a 6th or a 5th for him, do it. Because I also don't want to see Oladokun on the practice squad and someone else takes him. Do you know what I mean? I agree. Like, I want to see him. Like,
I think realistically, what's going to happen is Trubisky will start. Rudolph will probably be back up, and Kenny Pickett will be third, and then Chris Oladokun will be on the practice squad.
Yeah.
And depending if he stays there or not. However, I think a lot of fans, we're playing this game where, I don't think you can't start. I don't think you can start Kenny Pickett right now. I just think the way that, and the Steelers are smart, right? So say for instance your scenario happens.
Sorry, I'll just say one thing. Why would you? All of us are sitting here and we're about to talk about the wide receiver position with Pickens and Austin. You want Austin's and Pickens getting the feel from the game, probably from Trubisky, less so from Pickett. That's all I'm going to say to start off. But yeah, sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you with your example, say Trubisky, or if he starts and then doesn't start, 3 weeks later, then you are right. The depth you have then is what? Kenny Pickett, Oladokun? No, you're probably better off having a backup quarterback that is Mason Rudolph, that has been playing the league. He's got career starts under his belt. Yes, he hasn't had the best numbers, or he hasn't had the most scored points. However, as the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're probably thinking, well, he's our backup quarterback. He's a guy who can go out there and start and maybe get a win or two. So, but look, they could shock everyone. The Pittsburgh Steelers could shock everyone and say Kenny Pickett had the best camp, and just go and start Kenny Pickett.
And you know what, Steelers fans as well, even if you don't like the situation that we've got right now, it could be worse. We could be the Browns.
It could be very
traded all these first-round picks and $230 million.
Yeah,
and then they're starting Jacoby Brissett.
They can't even play him. Like, that's crazy. That is like the ultimate.
Maybe we should trade if they love Pickett, right? Let's say Pickett balls out in training camp. Trade Trubisky to the Browns. I wouldn't want to do that. He's just had a little kid. And poor wife, she'll leave him. But trade him to the Browns for Nick Chubb and Denzel.
Imagine getting
Denzel Ward. We can't afford. I'm being silly, but can you imagine
getting a running back set of Najee Harris and Nick Chubb and taking away 2 more first-round picks of the Browns? The Browns don't pick number 1 overall to 2028.
Well, knowing their history, that's probably a better scenario than picking later, where they pick first rounders that just cost them money.
Oh, that is so funny because we are in a pretty good situation with the quarterback.
We've got three genuine starters, like
rookie, up and coming rookie who can hopefully go out there and ball. Trubisky who can play, and Mason Rudolph who can also play as well, depending what they want to do. And then the Browns on the other side have Joshua Dobbs. Thank you, mate, but you're okay. And they have who's it, Brissett, and that's it. That's all they have.
But also, the other thing is, back when Mason, let's rewind to week 6 or 7, 2019, when Ben was out and it was Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. If you said to a Steelers fan then, in a couple of years' time when Ben's retired, we're gonna land the top quarterback in free agency, Mitch Trubisky, who in 2019, I'm pretty sure that was one of the years he took Chicago to the playoffs. So you told that to a Steelers fan, they'd be like, what the heck? And then you said, and we're also going to draft the best quarterback in the draft at the 20th pick of the draft. People would have told you were an absolute, imbecile, and you needed to go to the madman home. The men in the white coats would be coming out. We got to be grateful.
Well, Michael O'Malley here says it best here on YouTube land. He says, whoever wins quarterback one wins quarterback one. And I'm in that camp as well. I really don't care, but I just want to see the camp battle. I'm pretty excited too. Are you excited to see Kenny Pickett and Trubisky throw a football? like for the Steelers,
Yeah,
right?
I am actually.
Like we haven't seen that. It's a new era after Big Ben, so I'm excited to see those fellas go out there and play a preseason game. Like, let's be real, it's gonna be super fun to see them play the preseason game.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to running back because we've still got wide receiver and tight end and fullback to cover off.
Right.
Running back room is Mateo Durant, Trey Edmonds, Najee Harris, Anthony McFarland, Benny Snell, Jalen Warren. Instead of saying you're the odd man out, who are your 4 starters right now?
Okay. So Najee Harris, number 1. I'm going to put in there and Anthony McFarland. I'm going to put in there not 2, but he's in the depth chart. Are we including Watt or not? No. Okay. I know this is crazy, but I still like my guy Trey Edmonds. So I think he always sticks around.
Slow as a wet week.
It's not that bad, dude. He's always there though, so he might be. He's always on. I scratched that. He's always on the practice squad, off and on, isn't he? He plays some weeks he doesn't. So I know there's a lot going on in there. There's a lot. Hey, keep it PG out there. Ladies and gentlemen.
Let's just say there's some discussion about Robert Kraft and some of his, well, not discussion. There's
It's like 4 comments in a row. I can't even escape it. Like
yeah.
All right. No, I'm not going to finish that joke. I'm not going to finish that joke. Okay, so we have look. I'm going to leave Benny Snell to last. That's the one that really trips me out the most. But Najee Harris, McFarland, maybe one of the undrafted guys. I think if I'm having 4 running backs, I'm using Watt as the 4th.
Okay. Seattle has 9 losses. Okay, what do you say? Like, what is the 4th running back?
I'm not gonna have 4 running backs. I'm gonna have what will be the 4th fullback running back.
Right, so we'll get to what. I mean, I want to see what this Mateo Durant guy can do, but I think we've all hyped him up, and you can just see him preseason like running into a guy fumbling the ball. Bow, you're out. Like.
It happens too in preseason.
But they do have to address, even if it's in next year's draft, they've got to bring in a running back to back up Najee. They just gotta
something. Yeah, well, something needs to happen because is this the time that is time for McFarland and Snell? And we've been saying that for 2 years. We've been saying it for a long time. It's like, okay, when are you going to actually run past the second yard? 2 yards.
The other thing I would say about Dearness Johnson is don't be surprised to see him actually get cut, because if you look at the Browns, they drafted Jerome Ford, and Jerome Ford had probably had a bigger he probably had a bigger projection coming out of college, and then Kareem Hunt still hasn't signed anywhere. He could find his way back to Cleveland potentially. So
the thing is our second running back behind Najee? Is he even on the roster? Is he going to come in?
That's basically my point.
Yeah. Could be anyone coming in, right? So the odd man out is everyone besides Najee. Najee, you're fine, mate. You're one of the you go back and watch his highlights, and he got bigger this year.
But Najee is also a bit of an odd guy. Like, he didn't even have a Christmas tree.
Yeah, it's true. But he's just. I remember.
He's a legend. He's an absolute legend.
He's carrying 4 people on his back. He wants to win. He wants to be a Steeler, and that's what I love about Najee. And he's just so humble. He wants to not only mind he's getting paid all the money, but when he's on the field, he's like, okay, I got to get the ball to there. I'll go do that for you. They're thinking about nothing else. And the other guys are odd man out because McFarland saw 1 snap last year, and the undrafted guys. I would love to see one of those guys, make the team.
That's it. All right, we'll move on to tight end and fullback because, like defensive line last week, there are a billion wide receivers on this roster.
Huge.
Linebackers were a lot last week too. So you got Patty Freiermuth, my man, Zach Gentry, Kevin Rader, Jay Sternberger, Connor Haywood, and of course Derek Watt. So you're gonna have some brothers there of other Steelers players. For me, Gentry and Freiermuth are definitely 2 of the 3 spots at tight end. And then I think it's Connor Haywood. Although I really like Jay Sternberger. I think given a chance, he can do stuff. To me, he's higher on the depth chart than Kevin Rader. But I also think it depends if Gentry was to get injured, for example, then, Raiders are probably more going to replace Gentry with Jay Sternberger, a bit more like a, Pat Freemuth type. So it's kind of a bit dependent there. But I can't see Connor Hayward missing this roster. And as much as I would like Derek Watt to potentially miss the roster, I don't see that happening given the special teams situation.
Exactly. And speaking of special teams, Kevin Radar was pretty good on teams when he has played for the Steelers. He's a big unit, can block and stuff like that. But going out being a pass catcher, I see as well. I see Muth, I see Gentry. I see why else would you go out and sign Connor Hayward if you don't want to use him? So you would use him sparingly to be that number 3 tight end / fullback, put him on the roster. And I see it also as well Watt being there too. And the guys that are outside looking in are Jason Sternberger. Although I think I've seen little bits of footage of him. He looks like a pretty talented tight end.
He was doing pretty well for Green Bay, and then basically he got injured, and they brought him back, and then there was an off the field situation, and then he got injured again, and then they kind of like cut him. But I mean, he'd been doing pretty well. Like he was a breakout player, like big breakout player.
Yeah, but it's almost like now because I think. We were talking about Gentry 2 years ago, not even catching the football, and now he's becoming in a lot of the Steelers' mind.
Do you remember the one after one of the shows about 6 months ago? It might have been in January. You and I were having a massive laugh about Gentry and like one pass
all year.
Yeah,
I think it was. And then
it was before last season. It was right before last season.
Last year he had about, I think he had more than one catch, had about maybe 10 or so, but he had a big play. In one of the games, it went for about 15 yards because no one marked him up.
Well, he had to be playing that Ravens game where he had like a 40-yard pass or something from Ben. Remember?
Yeah, that might have been. I'm not sure, but yeah, he's slowly coming to, and even now even the Steelers media are kind of showing us like he'll be part of the team as well because they're showing Muth and Gentry together. The two brothers.
Well, people don't realize as well, like Gentry was a quarterback drafted by Michigan. Like the guy can understand the game, and then he started transitioning.
It can be a very sneaky one in this offense too, because I think the defenses won't really think about him. He'll be like the last resort to get the football, but he could become, if Mitchell Trubisky starts using the tight ends over the middle, they might go to Muth, they might go to Gentry, and he's just so tall. Like once he can get things down, third year?
Look at the height. Well, we're going to get to wide receiver. Look at the height they've got now from the receiving perspective. You've got Patty Freemuth at 6'5", Gentry's 6'7", Claypool's 6'4". Pickens is 6'3", 6'2", 6'3". I mean, I've got him in front of me. Hang on. Yeah, he's 6'3". He does classify as 6'3". So, like, you've got some big bodies there. Like,
yeah, that's why it's going to be very hard for Sternberg or Radar to make the roster, and they might be practice squad.
Miles Boykin as well. We'll get to him in wide receiver.
Yeah, so 6'4". I think Connor Hayward will be in there somewhere. It'll be those 4: Connor Hayward, Watt, and the 2 tight ends. But they could shock us. I don't know if they're going to put Hayward on the practice squad, and if no one else picks him up, and then they bring in.
If they put him on that practice squad, they know he's gone.
Well,
now I don't think they're I don't think they're just going to pick him on the roster because he's Like I never thought that about being Cameron Hayward's brother. If he gets a spot, he'll have earned it. But it will factor into their mind, I think, about losing him.
Also depends on how they're going to use the tight ends on the field as well. If they're going to be more.
Well, and that's where I think that Hayward makes sense because I think he's going to play that H-back role in the Matt Canada offense.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But I don't think Derek Hayward's on this roster next year.
He can. Who? Sorry,
Derek Watt. Sorry, I said Derek Hayward. I don't think Derek Watt is on the roster next year.
That's fair enough, but he can run the football too, right, Connor Hayward?
Correct. That's why I don't think. That's why I also think Trey Edmonds is.
And he's a bit. What I did see from his highlights, he's a bit of a just like he is Benny's still football, right? He runs down and just smacks him in the face. So he might even take Benny's role there, which could also free up another spot.
Benny's safe because of special teams. Benny's safe. Benny. But the fair thing about Benny though is that we saw what happened when he had an offensive line going forward in that Ravens game in 2019, right? At the end of the season. So in that dark, dingy game where it was just raining and it was So like I think from that perspective, behind a decent O-line, he might have a few holes that open up. He could prove his worth.
This is the time to talk about it in the offseason because we haven't seen it yet. But this is like I think Brian Brown says here, Matt Canada supposedly has his genius offensive plan that we haven't seen yet. And it's true because Big Ben, we couldn't see it last year because Big Ben was out there, drawing up his own plays. And this is a perfect opportunity for Matt Canada this year to say, here's my offense and let's go score points. And I can't wait. I really can't wait.
Yeah, and look, Brian, you're a regular of this show. You know, for almost 12 months, I keep saying, everyone keeps talking about, I've literally said this for 12 months. Everyone keeps talking about the Matt Canada offense. What is the Matt Canada offense? Is the Matt Canada offense good? Who fits into it? Does he still use H-backs? Does he use wide receivers differently? Does the running back go onto center, or do they throw a quarterback onto center, or do they throw shotgun? Like, the Matt Canada offense is... We never even see it. You know,
It's
will he fired out of Pittsburgh and he'll go, I never got to implement my offense properly. Like
it's like one of your mates. If I was saying to someone, "Oh, me and my girlfriend," I'm like, "Mark, we've never seen your girlfriend." Oh, she's around. She's around. I swear, I hang out with her all the time. What's her name? Amy. Or wasn't it Michelle last week? Amy. You know, she's cool. Yeah, we have built this thing up, and that's what we do as fans. Like the Matt Canada offense, it's just an offense that he's coaching, right? And
it's like you meet those people that are like, you meet people in, whatever you do after school, and they're like, oh yeah, at school I did this and I did that, and you look at them and you're like, I don't know.
Oh, just lying through their teeth.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know about that. Like everyone I talk to always played like Australian schoolboys rugby. I'm like, I don't think so.
Oh yeah, how many all pros from the same school can go there? Like, you didn't go there.
100%. How many people made regional? I'm like, everyone I talk to at the pub says they made regional. Like, or it's like making state in the US. Like, no, I don't think so. All right, well, let's move to wide receiver. Calvin Austin the third, Miles Boykin, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Anthony Miller, Gunnar Olszewski, George Pickens, Steve Sims, Tyler Snead, Tyler Vaughns, Cody White.
Can I name how many receivers you think you're going to have? I'm going to have, I think, 6 if I were choosing.
I know 6.
Yeah, 6. Can I name my 6? Can I say, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Pickens, Gunnar Olszewski, Calvin Austin, and the last one, I don't know. I'm trying to think between Anthony Miller and Boykins. So I'm going to go with Miller because he's got the connection with Trubisky, but that's my 6.
All right. If I was the GM, I pretty much agree with you, but Anthony Miller's making this squad no matter what. I think Steven Sims makes a practice squad just with what he brings to the table, but Anthony Miller is making this squad due to the familiarity with Trubisky, and I think he can actually, given the chance, he's a really good 4th string wide receiver. But for me and the Matt Canada offense, which I've just swagged off for like 2 minutes, I know Gunnar Olszewski can return, is a good return man. To me, he goes onto a practice squad, and I'm keeping Miles Boykin there. But I'm assuming that Boykin's going to do well in the preseason. If he doesn't, then Gunnar makes it. So I think there's only really one wide receiver position to play.
And who's your kick return guy? Is that going to be Austin?
Yeah, I would probably do Austin. I know Haywood can return kicks. I know Miller. I think Miller's even returned some kicks.
Has Austin done in the past though? Yeah, even though he's really fast, but has he played that position?
Yeah, he returned some kicks at Bingo.
Right. So they could cut.
I did just score in Madden with Calvin Austin. I did just score 3 return touchdowns in the Super Bowl AFC Championship and first week of the playoffs.
He's lightning fast. So I can see that too. So they're gonna, they pay the man, but then cut him because he doesn't work out for the squad.
Benny Snell can receive as well, I think.
Return touchdowns.
Not return touchdowns, but I think he can catch. I think he's not by receive. I mean,
Yeah, we'll just stand him at 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage and get those.
Well, they all kick it up for a touchback anyway. Like, who cares? Just let it bounce into the end zone, 20-yard, go again. Like,
it's funny. Yeah. Well,
Najee Harris. Imagine Najee Harris. Give him the ball like that.
Oh, man, if he just ran straight as hard as he could, he'd probably.
That's what I'm saying. Just run straight, as we like to say. And
why don't they put running backs back there? They also put Switzer.
Well, I think often you got to think about it too with a running back. Like that, there was that trend for like 20 years where most teams like ran the first play of the game was a running play. You're not going to have your starting running back catch the ball and then have to line up and go again straight away.
Stay on the field, mate. Stay on the field.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But in these days where everyone's kind of protected.
Well, they're taking. You have right. They're taking away the kickoff return because we had the return specialist. AB for a long time was probably our last good one. And other than that, kickoff returns you don't see much, do you? Maybe what
can Boykin
2 times out of 10.
I'm just gonna look that up.
Who's that? Sorry,
Boykin.
I'm not sure. I think he plays gunner. I think he's also a gunner.
I know he's done gunner, but I thought, yeah.
Which, I guess are we going to go talk special teams or not? This is just the offense today.
Well, yeah, like I looked at punter last week because I associate that as a defensive position and kicker the other way around. But
we've got a few minutes. How do you think?
Well, what do you think? All right, one more. Does Cody White make the practice squad because his dad's in
he's got to make something, you know. He's got to make something, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of think it's that there's the 4 wide receivers. I know we're jumping around a lot, but 4 wide receivers are Deontay, Chase, Pickens, and Austin. And then who might be the other 2, as you and I try and debate now, we don't know, right? And could it also be someone else coming in? But I kind of like Miles Boykin too. He's a kind of a fun receiver as well. You need someone with a bit of grit because we know Pickens is going to have a bit of a grit too. But I don't know. I don't want to see Oshesky out there if he can't move the football. You know, you don't want to waste a spot like when they wasted that spot with Switzer. You don't want to waste it, do you?
Yeah, electronic football, man.
You look back at that and you're like I always have hope for anyone, and then you look back and go,
I didn't. I was never on that train. I don't have to look back. I don't have to look back. I wasn't on that train. I was on the Big Ben.
By default, I have to. I'm like, I'll give him a chance, and you're just like, yeesh, boy, like he was bad, wasn't he? Didn't move anywhere. Like he caught the ball, went.
Do you know what it was like? It's like if you ever get out, like if you've when you had like a remote control car or whatever, and you get it out after you haven't played with it for a little while, and it's a gear slower. It's just like it's not even working. The one wheel's not spinning. It's just not.
And he was there. Switzer was there because of Ben, right? Because Ben wanted him at the 5th receiver, and they I don't know who they got. Oh, they got rid of Deontay Johnson, right? Did they not?
Well, that's the other thing. Well, that's the other thing in this. We talked about Deontay Johnson then, right? Deontay Johnson.
Oh, not Deontay Johnson. Deontay.
No,
Spencer.
but Deontay Johnson can receive. Not receive. Of course, he can receive. Why I keep saying that? Receive the kickoff is what I want to say.
But they got rid of his. Is it Spencer the Bronco? Wasn't he the one cut?
Was it Deontay Spencer?
I think it was him cut rather than Switzer. But
yeah,
that's it's always funny. Like I know we're near the end of the show, but it's always funny that. No matter what we think, there's always like 1 or 2 things we go, really? Are you serious? You're going to cut that guy? He's good. We're going to keep him? So, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
what do we wait? 27 days away from, or 20 days or something, or 25 days away from training camp?
That's it. Anything else for the listeners this week, Marky D, before we wrap it up?
I think you guys have the 4th of July coming up. So, have fun.
Oh, yeah.
In the next few days. So, have fun. Stay safe. Represent the black and gold Steelers wherever you go. Just and if you're having conversations, just shout out BTSC or what podcast you listen to, and shout us out if you want to. You don't have to, but just talk about Steelers. Like that's the funnest time I ever had over in America was just meeting someone and talking football when I'm wearing or representing the black and gold, because we're getting hyped up now into the season with training camp and then preseason football, and I'm just excited to see what's going to happen. Really. It's been a long off season.
Yeah, I want to back that up, Mark. And you're a good point on bringing July 4th up. America, all we'll say is that, I know it can be a bit divisive over there, and, everyone's got something negative to say, and, it's the same in our country about our country. But I can tell you, Mark and I have been to America probably up 20 times between us, almost, probably roughly, right? Have a good love for your country, have always been well treated in your country. And, as a country that's considered, very good allies with America and Australia, we like a lot about it. No country is perfect. But no matter what, you should always be proud of where you come from. Things aren't always going to be perfect, but, both any American and any Australian are pretty lucky to live in the countries that they live in. So I had the pleasure of doing July 4th over there in Texas. One year, had these frozen cocktails that had like blue, white, and red in them. It was mad. Like they all sat there and they were awesome. But we just celebrate what you've got, because we're all pretty lucky.
Oh, it's awesome that me and my dad went over there, and before the pandemic, we did a USA history tour kind of thing from New York to Washington, Philadelphia to Gettysburg, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Philadelphia is cool when you look at like Liberty Bell.
Philadelphia, there's so much history there, and that's where like you guys pretty much started with all your stuff, and then they moved everything to Washington. But yeah, it's so fun over there, and they treat us, the Australians, with we have a bit of a banter, a bit of fun. So like we love it over there. Like I love just hanging out with the Americans and just teasing them or having a bit of fun back and forth. It's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up this week's Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matty Peverell with Marky D as always. Happy July 4th.
Go Steelers.